In this unit, we will discuss nutritional factors and its influence on health and performance, specifically focusing on protein, carbohydrates, fats, vitamins and minerals, and fluid intake. To begin, take note of the vivid colors in this picture. The easiest way to improve nutrition and to be sure that you get enough vitamins and minerals is to eat fruit and vegetables that have color and to avoid browns and whites. And artificial coloring doesn't apply. So how do you know if your diet is adequate? First, we must consider that athletes have two dietary goals: to eat to obtain maximal athletic performance, and second, to eat for optimal body composition. This includes eating the appropriate caloric and nutrient level. Remember that although there are fads and promises of the perfect diet, there isn't the ideal diet for all athletes, and you must take a customized approach for each. We will now discuss fats, proteins, carbohydrates, and their influence on athletic performance. Protein has become a very popular topic today, with many athletes and lay people focusing their diet primarily on protein. To review, protein and carbohydrates provide 4 calories per gram, and fat provides 9 calories per gram. Protein is a larger molecule than carbohydrate and fat. This fact explains why high-protein meals are satisfying and stay with you longer than high-carbohydrate meals. Consider this. You have a short stack of pancakes with syrup and a side of orange juice. This is primarily carbohydrates and fats. Although you leave the table full, in a few hours you might experience hunger pangs again as your body rapidly metabolizes the carbohydrates and you experience fluctuations in blood sugar. Now, if you replace that high carbohydrate breakfast with a few eggs, lean bacon, and wheat toast, you might find to be satisfied for a longer period of time as your blood sugar remains more constant. Besides carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, protein contains nitrogen. This is an important fact to consider. Consuming too much protein in the diet will increase the nitrogen content that can cause kidney damage. People who are on a doctor-supervised high-protein diet are instructed to consume very large amounts of water to flush out the excessive nitrogen in the body. Proteins are also the building blocks of tissue, which is an important fact for our athletes who engage in strength programs. 20 different amino acids make up the basic structure of protein. These include essential and non-essential. Essential means that the body cannot produce them and they must come from the diet, and non-essential means that the body can manufacture them. Complete proteins, which means they don't need to be combined with other foods to provide adequate protein, are from animal origin and include meat, fish, poultry, cheese, eggs, yogurt, and milk. Incomplete or lower quality proteins means they lack one or more essential amino acids. They are also referred to as partial proteins. Sources of incomplete proteins include grains, nuts, beans, seeds, peas, and corn. By combining 2 or more incomplete proteins, a complete protein can be created. Examples of this include peanut butter and jelly on whole wheat bread, tortillas and beans, and also rice and beans are good sources of protein comprised of 2 incomplete proteins. Although you receive complete protein from animal sources, Be aware that this type of protein is also high in saturated fat, and overconsumption can make you fat and also increase your serum cholesterol levels. The body cannot store excessive amino acids. Furthermore, recent studies show that high consumption of protein increases one's risk of cancer. Protein consumption is not a problem in the United States. In fact, the only area where Americans are deficient is water consumption, and for some people, calcium and vitamin D. Note the formula and suggestions for healthy protein intake on this slide. Protein requirements increase for athletes, endurance athletes, and strength training athletes, and are especially helpful during the initial phases of weight training and muscle gain. However, there are many advertisements that promise their protein will hurry along this process. This gives athletes the idea that it is the protein consumption and not the intense strength training that provides the benefits. This is wrong. In fact, that mentality will only create a fat athlete with no money in his or her pocket. There are many discussions about the timing of protein, with some advocating for protein consumption before workout and others after workout. Protein needs will increase as muscle mass and weight increases, so the athlete can make adjustments. Remember, however, that protein supplements do not replace healthy eating. It's in addition to healthy eating. Also, remember that protein contains nitrogen, so it's imperative that athletes consume extensive amounts of water. A general guideline to follow is this: take half of your body weight in ounces. So a 100-pound athlete would consume 50 ounces of water per day. A 200-pound athlete would consume 100 ounces of water per day. Although carbohydrates and fats are the first to be used for energy production in the body, protein will contribute to ATP production during prolonged exercise. Consider the facts listed on this slide. We will now discuss carbohydrates. Carbohydrates function as the primary fuel source for ATP production and central nervous system function. Carbohydrates also spare or prevent protein from being used as fuel, which then allows protein to do its primary function of tissue growth and repair. Carbohydrates is also a metabolic primer that assists in the metabolism of fat. Carbohydrates are available in three forms: monosaccharides, which are single molecules and are known as simple sugars; disaccharides, which are two monos bonded together; and polysaccharides, which are complex carbohydrates and the type recommended in our diets. Disaccharides and polysaccharides are broken down to monosaccharides to be used in the body. This slide explains the process of carbohydrate metabolism. The monosaccharides are absorbed by the small intestine and travel to the liver, where they are converted to glucose. Glucose is the fuel for ATP production. 1/3 of the carbohydrate is stored in the liver, and 2/3 of the carbohydrate is stored in the muscle as glycogen. However, just as protein, excess glucose does not have excessive storage in the liver and muscles, so once they are filled, glucose is converted to adipose cells, referred to as fat, and stored as energy. However, it's unhealthy and counterproductive to have a lot of this type of fat energy stored in our bodies. There are many discussions about the ideal carbohydrate intake. Approximately 50 to 100 grams of carbohydrate is needed per day to prevent ketosis. Ketones are produced during fat and carbohydrate metabolism. Carbohydrates are needed to metabolize these ketones, but if there are not enough carbohydrates in the body, incomplete fat metabolism occurs, which is known as ketosis. This is also referred to as metabolic acidosis, which results in a variety of minor to severe symptoms, including weakness, dizziness, tunnel vision, fatigue, abnormal heart rhythm, sweet-smelling breath, dehydration, and kidney damage. On the contrary, too many carbohydrates will result in increased triglyceride levels, which increases the risk of cardiovascular disease and body fat. Refer to this slide for ideal and current recommendations of carbohydrate intake. Dietary fiber, broken down as soluble and insoluble, originates from complex carbohydrates and is necessary for overall health. Soluble fiber is the part of the food that can be broken down and is known for its ability to reduce blood cholesterol. Insoluble fiber is the part of the food that cannot be broken down and is considered nature's broom. The body uses this indigestible part to sweep out the intestines, thus decreasing constipation and risk of colon cancer. For example, the skin of the apple is insoluble and the inside is soluble. The skin of the pinto bean is insoluble and the inside is soluble. 20 to 30 grams of dietary fiber is recommended for us each day. However, most Americans only consume approximately 11 grams. The effects of increased fiber on aerobic athletes can be very detrimental. They can experience what is known as runner's trots, which includes gas, abdominal cramping, and diarrhea, all very counterproductive to performance. Therefore, increase fiber slowly in one's diet if it is determined that they are deficient. We will now discuss the structure, function, and food examples of lipids. Fats found in our food are referred to as fats and oils, whereas body fat is referred to as lipids. The three main lipids in the body are triglycerides, which stores adipose cells, phospholipids, which make up cell membranes, and cholesterol, which forms the hormones estrogen and testosterone, bile acids in digestion, and also makes up cell membranes. Saturated fats are considered saturated because they have hydrogen atoms, and unsaturated fats do not have hydrogen atoms at every bonding site in the molecule. Saturated fats are often solid at room temperature, such as in butter and cheese, whereas monosaturated fats are usually liquid at room temperature but can turn solid in the refrigerator, such as olive oil. Omega-3 fatty acid is a type of polyunsaturated fat. Fats are the predominant fuel source in lower to moderate activities and during rest. Fats also insulate and protect the organs of the body. Consider fat as the cushion around the organs. Fats also regulate hormones in the body. When a female has very low body fat, possibly due to eating disorder, her menstruation often becomes irregular or ceases because of the influence of fat and hormonal regulation. Fat also carries fat-soluble vitamins through the body. Fat supplies the essential fatty acids of omega-6 and omega-3. These two fatty acids are receiving more research in recent days because we are consuming too much omega-6 and not enough omega-3 fats in our diets, which is causing excessive inflammation. This inflammation causes arthritis, heart disease, and diabetes. To counteract this, we should consume more cold water fish, flax seeds, and walnuts instead of soybean oil, corn oil, and other seed oils. Finally, lipids offer pleasing flavors, aroma, and texture to foods while providing a feeling of satiety or fullness. This slide contains the food sources of the fatty acids previously discussed. We should consume monosaturated and polysaturated fats more than saturated and trans fats to maintain healthy serum levels in our body. Mono and polysaturated fats lower LDL, which is the bad lipoprotein in our body that elevates our cholesterol and increases heart disease. Saturated and trans fats raise LDL. Diets rich in color contain healthy fats, and the brown diet seen in the pictures in this slide contains saturated, unhealthy fats. To increase healthy omega-3 fatty acids, we should consume cold water fish, flaxseed, and walnuts instead of soybean, corn, and other seed oils. Fish oil tablets can be taken for those who don't like fish. However, there are side effects of this as noted in the slide. We will now discuss vitamins and minerals and their role in health and athletic performance. Please read this joint statement from the American and Canadian Dietetic Associations. Considering this statement, do you believe it is necessary for us to take vitamin and mineral supplements? Think about this as we discuss the following slides. Although the previous slide stated that vitamin and mineral supplementation typically aren't required if we consume a balanced diet, research shows that the majority of us do buy them. But do we always consume them? That's another story. Are we attempting to find the edge in competition? Do we feel run down and fatigued that we believe a vitamin and mineral supplementation will help us? Or do we frequently sabotage our diets and believe that a vitamin and mineral tablet will erase our poor eating choices and their consequences? Perhaps all of those statements apply. In this next section, we will discuss the function of vitamins and minerals in more detail. By doing so, you may come to a new understanding of why we sometimes choose to take these as supplements. Vitamins are organic compounds that are essential for growth, but not for energy. They are consumed in small quantities in the diet and cannot be synthesized by the body. There are two classifications of vitamins: water and fat-soluble. Vitamins C and B are water-soluble vitamins that are constantly being supplied by the diet, with excess amounts being passed in the urine. Vitamin C is an antioxidant, and it also assists in iron absorption. Oftentimes, people will take additional vitamin C when they feel a cold coming on or are run down. Considering the body can only absorb what it needs, the majority of vitamin C is passed through the body. A better approach when you are feeling sick or fatigued is to omit all sugars from your diet. Viruses use sugar to multiply, so you can assist the body in fighting them by omitting sugar. Vitamin B complex is considered the stress vitamin and is used for metabolic functions in the body. Some will supplement this vitamin when they are feeling stressed or to promote health. Again, this vitamin is water soluble, so whatever the body cannot use is passed in the urine. Vitamins A, D, E, and K are fat soluble. This means that excessive amounts of these vitamins can accumulate in the body via the liver and fat and cause toxic effects over time. The body also needs fat to circulate these vitamins through the body. Vitamin A functions in vision. Vitamin D assists in calcium absorption and healthy bones and teeth. Vitamin E is an antioxidant, and vitamin K assists in normal blood clotting mechanisms. Refer to this slide for the food sources of vitamins. Notice again the color-rich diet that is necessary for health. We will now discuss minerals and their role in the body. Minerals are inorganic compounds in the body that maintain water balance and acid-base balance and regulate muscular and nervous tissue impulses, blood clotting, and normal heart rhythm and respiration. Minerals are categorized as major and minor depending upon their recommended daily allowance. Refer to this slide for the major and trace minerals and the richest food sources. Iron is an important mineral that plays a role in oxygen transport and utilization of energy. As a part of hemoglobin, iron combines with oxygen in the lungs and transports it to the skeletal muscles. Therefore, those who have low iron content experience fatigue during athletic activities, which limits endurance performance. Iron deficiency in the United States is as high as 58% with menstruating women, dieters, endurance athletes, those who don't eat red meat, and lacto-ovo-vegetarians, which are those who don't eat any meat of any kind, being most prone. There are two types of iron deficiency. False anemia occurs not because of low iron in the blood, but because the plasma volume is increased as a result of cardiovascular training. True anemia is when there is less iron in the blood than what is needed. Causes of iron depletion could be attributed to inadequate iron intake, foot strike, and also an interesting component of this foot strike is that the body can absorb up to 3 times of its body weight with each foot strike during running. Athletes who run many miles can actually damage red blood cells from the excessive foot strike, thus causing iron depletion. The third area of iron depletion is from gastrointestinal bleeding, possibly due to an ulcer, and also from menstruation. Interestingly, excessive sweating can also leak out iron. Refer to this slide for the recommended daily allowance for iron intake according to age and gender. If an athlete experiences unexplained fatigue or decreased aerobic capacity, a simple blood test can be performed to test for deficiency. If it is positive, then the athlete will be prescribed supplements. The problem of supplements is the tendency for them to also cause constipation. Also, excessive iron, referred to as hemochromatosis, is a dangerous condition causing damage to the organs, joints, and heart. Some people are born with this condition. Treatment includes periodical removal of blood, referred to as phlebotomy, as is performed in a blood donation. So should athletes take an iron supplement to attempt to increase iron? The suggestion is to first improve diet and cooking habits. Consider these suggestions. First, vitamin C assists in the absorption of iron. Second, avoid calcium supplements while taking iron because calcium can decrease iron absorption. Thus, a multivitamin with iron might not be a good choice. Third, ingest carbohydrates that are fortified or enriched. Fourth, the tannins found in tea and coffee decreases iron absorption, so avoid these beverages with meals. Fifth, consume lean red meats and the dark meat of poultry. And finally, cooking with the heavy, non-Teflox iron cookware increases iron absorption as some of the iron from the heavy cookware actually leaks into the food. So who are the candidates for dietary supplements? Women of childbearing age should consume folic acid to prevent neural tube defects in their baby, such as spina bifida. Heavy smokers should take vitamin C because this antioxidant will counteract the harmful effects of nicotine. Maybe it would be better if they just stopped smoking altogether. Those taking birth control should consume thiamine and riboflavin. People who consume excessive alcohol often have poor eating habits, and supplements can replenish the essential vitamins and minerals that are missing in their body. Those taking pharmaceutical drugs who experience chronic infection, have cancer, or are recovering from surgery can also benefit from supplements to assist the body in healing. The elderly often don't eat properly and have brittle bones, which makes supplements helpful to them. Those who diet chronically, including those with eating disorders, may also benefit from supplements. And finally, some athletes believe that supplements enhance their performance, although this may just be the placebo effect. The effects of dietary supplements on performance depends if the athletes are reaching the recommended daily allowances from their diet. Also, those who are in strenuous cardiovascular and strength training may have reduced performance without supplements because of the heavy load on the body, thus causing depletion of vitamins and minerals. These athletes may benefit from a supplement. Sometimes athletes are searching for the magic solution to increase performance by purchasing expensive supplements and concoctions and then forgetting the readily available, no-cost H2O. Notice the facts on this slide. Water makes up 45 to 70% of a person's body weight, and of all nutrients, water affects athletic performance the most. Some other interesting facts include the following. The number one cause of fatigue and headache is lack of water. A person can survive 30 days without food, but only 4 to 10 days without water. Thirst is not a reliable indicator of fluid need. In fact, when the thirst mechanism kicks in, the person is already dehydrated. Therefore, we don't adequately replace fluid loss by consuming fluids at will. This is known as voluntary dehydration. Therefore, we need to drink beyond our thirst and follow guidelines of fluid replacement. The thirst sensation and the regulation of urine output from our kidneys is how our body regulates fluid intake. Consider the risks of dehydration as noted in the stats on this slide. Core temperature increases with only a 1% loss of body weight from fluids. The heart experiences strain with 3 to 5% loss of body weight from fluids, and the individual will collapse at approximately 7% loss of body weight from fluid loss. To counteract the risk of dehydration, the athlete's body weight should be recorded before and after practice. The individual should consume 0.5 liters of fluid for every pound lost during practice. This is approximately 17 ounces. If he or she lost 2 pounds during practice, they would increase fluid intake by about a liter, which is approximately 34 ounces. This water allotment would be in addition to consuming half their body weight in ounces throughout the day. This is the formula for health. So again, for example, if an athlete weighed 200 pounds, he would consume 100 ounces of fluid throughout the day, in addition to an additional 32 ounces needed from water and weight loss during practice. You can see how athletes don't adequately replace water loss just by using the thirst mechanism and have to be diligent about consuming enough water. Signs of dehydration include dark, yellow, strong-smelling urine with decreased urination. In addition, the athlete may experience an increased resting heart rate and also have prolonged muscle soreness. Sodium, chloride, and potassium are the major electrolytes lost in sweat during athletic activity. In time, however, the sweat of a trained athlete has less electrolyte loss as the body adapts to the activity. Untrained athletes are more susceptible to fluid loss and heat illness than trained athletes. Fluid replacement occurs before, during, and after exercise. We will discuss these guidelines in the next slides. Athletes are encouraged to consume 1 pint or 16 ounces of fluid within 2 hours before activity. They can choose water or any other non-alcoholic beverage. Some question the consumption of milk before activity because of the high fat content and possible accumulation of phlegm. Caffeine can be beneficial in that it releases free fatty acids in the body, which spares carbohydrates to be used later on during the activity. The side effects of caffeine consumption are increased agitation and anxiety, and its diuretic properties making the athlete have to urinate more frequently. The goals of fluid replacement are threefold. First, we want fluids that rapidly absorb into the body. Research shows that colder water absorbs quicker than warmer room temperature water. Second, we want to use fluids that athletes enjoy. Gatorade and Propel are palatable to most athletes. And finally, the athlete needs to be purposeful in their fluid replacement. Research shows that chugging, which is gulping large volumes of water, will empty more rapidly into the body than taking small sips. However, a full stomach may cause nausea for some athletes, so use chugging carefully. Carbohydrate replacement drinks should be offered to athletes whose competition are greater than 45 minutes to an hour or when they participate in multiple practice during the day. The carbohydrate will spare muscle glycogen, providing readily available carbohydrates needed for energy, and also prevents a drop in blood sugar. 20 to 40 ounces of fluid with a 4 to 8% carbohydrate concentration found in Gatorade and Propel are recommended. After the activity, the athlete should be weighed and consume 0.5 liters of fluid for every pound lost during practice. This again is approximately 16 to 17 ounces. A variety of beverages should be included except for alcohol to minimize urine output and restore electrolyte imbalance. We will now discuss pre-competition meals, carbohydrate loading, and post-competition meals. The purpose of the pre-competition meal is to provide appropriate fluids and energy needed for high performance. The pre-competition meal also has a ritual component as team members meet and oftentimes consume the same pre-game meal. However, the pre-competition meal does not replace 6 days of poor eating habits. It should be consumed at least 2.5 to 6 hours before competition, with more time allotted for athletes who experience excessive gastrointestinal distress and for endurance athletes. Refer to the slide for the guidelines of a pre-game meal. In this slide, a sample menu is provided for your athlete. This type of menu is suggested because it is easily digested. It will provide good carbohydrate for glycogen storage. It doesn't contain high fiber or seasoned foods, which would cause gas, cramping, and possibly diarrhea. It's important that the individual consume their pre-competition meal according to their digestive needs. If stomach distress occurs, the athlete can divert to a liquid pre-game meal with such beverages as chocolate milk or even a high carbohydrate meal the night before the event. Carbohydrate loading is followed by many athletes a day to 3 days before the endurance event to enhance performance. Review the results of the research study that compares a low carbohydrate, normal diet, and high carbohydrate diet to performance. The athletes who consumed the high carbohydrate diet didn't reach exhaustion until 167 minutes, compared to 114 and 57 minutes for the normal and low carbohydrate diet. So why does carbohydrate loading work? Well, the glycogen stores in the muscles are loaded to capacity, which extends performance ability and time. Athletes who compete in endurance events, such as long-distance running or short-duration, high-intensity activities, may benefit from carbohydrate loading. According to the NSCA, 3 days of carbohydrate diet while tapering exercise the week before, with complete rest the day before the event, provides the greatest results to carbohydrate loading. There are potential side effects of carbohydrate loading, especially for athletes who aren't accustomed to it or who use it excessively or ignorantly. First, excessive carbohydrate loading causes water retention, which would hinder rather than help performance. The athlete may also experience weight gain from the water retention. He or she may experience gas and diarrhea. Long-term carbohydrate loading may cause myoglobinuria, which is iron-containing protein in the muscle. This can lead to acute kidney failure. The post-exercise diet should also focus on high carbohydrate ingestion as soon as possible. This is because the liver and muscle glycogen stores are depleted. Research shows that high carbohydrate foods will replenish these stores faster than low carbohydrate foods. Some athletes lack an appetite for many hours after high intensity activity and thus should focus on consuming high carbohydrate drinks instead of foods. Fruit juices are examples of 10% and greater carbohydrate content.